I was raised a Catholic, and when I say I was raised a Catholic, I mean I was really raised a Catholic. Like, my father wanted to be a priest before he married my mom. My mom went to convent school, and they both went to Mass every day. I just want to show you, this is how my mother said the Our Father at Mass. Our Father, who art in heaven. It was like there was a hierarchy, and it went the Virgin Mary, the Pope, my mom, and then St. Catherine of Alexandria, who died on the wheel. So, anyway, this was the kind of stuff that happened at my house. At my house on Good Friday, which was a day off of school, we had to stay home all day, and my mother closed the drapes between 12 and 3, and we couldn't do anything except contemplate the death of Christ on the cross. For my confirmation, I didn't receive a check. A lot of my friends got a check. I got a porcelain figurine of the Virgin Mary holding the dead body of Christ, you know, to decorate my room with. And I also got a prayer book, Jesus Calling, Devotions for Every Day of the Year, teen edition. So, and of course I was sent to Catholic school, where they taught us crazy shit, like how to do an emergency baptism with orange juice. Also, they were really upset, like, if the hosts are like the little pieces of bread that the priest magically transforms into the body of Christ. Once it's transformed into the body of Christ, it cannot be defiled. So they talked a lot about, like, if the hosts fell on the floor, you should eat them immediately. Any Catholic could eat them. And we were taught this out of the Baltimore Catechism. And here's what the Baltimore Catechism said about regular communion. In case the host, this is a quote, should stick to the mouth, remove it carefully with the tongue, but never under any circumstances with the finger. So that's the kind of holy stuff we learned in school. We also learned things like Baltimore Catechism, Lesson 8. In choosing a baby's name, you may not choose the name of a heathen god, the name of a known heretic, or a nickname. So you couldn't name a baby Maggie or, until about 15 years ago, Galileo. And we learned all sorts of other crazy shit, like about limbo and how we had to pray our grandparents out of purgatory. We learned that it was a sin to go to a Protestant service. Here's a weird thing. We were taught this kind of respect for Judaism, but definitely not for Protestants. And I have to tell you that as a Catholic, I've got to say, you know, we heard things like the Protestant kids got to go to Sunday school instead of service. And we were like, you know, when you're a Catholic, once you're 8 and you have your first communion, you know, you are going to get your sinning ass to Mass with everybody else. And the Protestant services, when I finally got to one, it was a little dull. I mean, when Catholics, you know, there's the host turns into the body of Christ, so there's great rising dramatic action, and the show has wonderful costumes, and there's violent imagery. I mean, we really were the HBO of services. And we shared, you know, kind of a commonality with Judaism also, because they had, you know, mystery, and they also had great costumes, and of course we both had that lifetime of crippling guilt. So, and everything was a sin. Certain kinds of rock music were a sin, not the folk music that we listen to in guitar mass, and I'm just going to take a moment to sing you one of the lyrics, which was, eat his body, drink his blood, now we'll sing a song of love. So, and imagine it with the guitar, too, so it was really peppy. Other sins included, of course, sex before marriage, masturbating, thinking about masturbating, wearing a bikini, French kissing was a sin. And this, by the way, is why most Catholics are 30 years old before they have good sex with someone they actually respect. Also, in 1973, it was a sin to see the movie The Exorcist. That's what our priest told us. And to be clear, my mother wasn't going to let me go see The Exorcist anyway, because my mother never let me see anything. This was her saying. Her saying was, what is once seen cannot be unseen. So I was not allowed to see The Getaway with Steve McQueen and Ally McGraw, sex between unmarried people. Little Big Man, violence and adult themes. Two for the Road, scenes of an unhappy marriage. Quality was never the determining factor in whether I could see a movie or not. And actually, you know, here's something you can't unsee, the movie Ice Castles. Anyway, when I was finally allowed to see a movie that everybody else saw, it was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and I had to go with my parents. And my mother sat next to me, and during that scene where Robert Redford makes Catherine Ross take her clothes off, this is what my mother did. Oh. So, you know, that did wonders again for my budding sexuality. So, but I was determined to see The Exorcist. So I lied, and my friends, Maureen Neal and Lisa Horvath and I went to the Capitol Theater in Dover, Delaware, and the line was like all the way down the block, and we were looking for someone who would volunteer to be our adult, you know, to be our guardian, to take us into the movie. And we hadn't found anyone. The line was getting closer and closer in, and finally Maureen talked to this couple who looked old enough to vouch to be our guardians or our parents. And you know, can you imagine doing that? I mean, we didn't know them at all, though I'm pretty sure what with their cavalier attitude toward authority, Protestant. So, just a guess, no offense. So I saw the movie, and I can tell you now, 40 years, this is 1973 I saw it, that movie is still the most terrifying experience of my life. More terrifying than that moment in childbirth when the head is coming out and your skin is stretching and there's that burning feeling and you hear somebody say, I think she's gonna tear. Because honestly, with all the crazy shit they taught us, possession seemed totally possible. I mean, it is even in the Baltimore Catechism, Lesson 28, and I'm quoting, devils are sometimes permitted to enter the body of a man. I mean, even now, there's an organization at the Vatican called the International Association of Exorcists, the IAE. And I say that so you don't confuse it with the IACE, which is the International Association of Catholic Exorcists. So, anyway, you know, they're thinking of merging, kind of like SAG and AFTRA, but they'll have better dental. So. Anyway, when I got home from the movie, I'm in the hallway of our second floor of our house, and my sister Mary was asleep in our bedroom, which was a couple stairs up, and I heard from the room, also it was weird that Mary was asleep because she was older than I was, and she was asleep in there, and I thought I heard the sound of like furniture moving, which is how it all begins in The Exorcist, as you might remember, and my mom was sitting next to me, and I turned to her, I said, what was that? And my mother said, maybe spirits. And then she walked away. And I thought, oh shit, this is going down. Possession is happening in my house. What I did not think, and I can't believe it until I started actually writing the notes for this, I did not think that my mother knew I saw The Exorcist. But clearly, she did.
Oh my God.
I am so stupid.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so as not to arouse suspicion, I have to go to my room to sleep. And that night, I observed Mary very carefully. And for every night, for a year, I slept with the light on and with the record player arm, you know, pulled out so the record would play over and over again. Side B, Van Morrison, Moon Dance. I know the whole thing. And to this day, I cannot even see the preview of a scary movie. I mean, my husband's here, he'll vouch for it. I have to close my eyes. Sometimes I have to leave the theater. And this is how bad it can get. This is an actual true story. One night, my husband and I were up really late, and we came across this incredibly lame TV movie from 1979 entitled Cruise into Terror. And I am now going to actually read you the description of this movie. Campy, delightfully bad movie. An Egyptian sarcophagus that is cargo on a pleasure cruise ship has a secret. It contains the son of Satan. Starring Ray Milland and Lee Merriweather. So my husband, of course, thinks it's hilarious, but I kid you not, I am so scarred by The Exorcist that I have him change the channel. Because once that Egyptian mask comes up, Ray Milland's on the boat, and the mask comes up and they have that sound of monks chanting, all I can think about is Linda Blair.